We live in an era of political uncertainty. And I'm not just saying right now because of Brexit or because of the Gilets jaunes in France or any number of countries that are very close to just riots and possibly at one point or another civil war. That is why I think it is valuable to go to the knowledge of the ancients, to go back to the lessons of history if you actually want to be able to make sense of the chaos that is happening today. You can do much, much worse than the likes of Robert Harris's Imperium.
Let's talk about power.
And that is Rome. Rome, not some abstract place in a work of philosophy, but a city of glory built on a river of filth. So yes, I will defend Catalina if that is what is necessary, and then I will break him as soon as I can, and he would do the same to me. That is the world we live in. Cicero sat back in his chair, raised his hands, and said, Rome. That is an abstract of Robert Harris's first book on the life of Cicero. And at the end of the day, this is not a tale from 2,000 years ago. On the contrary, its pages feel very prescient. They feel as if they are applicable in this day and age, because we still have to contend with very much the same influences that Cicero had. It showcases just what it is to be a politician with higher ambitions, even despite having great plans for the future, even despite having grand visions of how a state ought to be run. Marcus Tullius Cicero has to contend with reality. So that is the thing. That is kind of why I decided to film this book review in front of the Parliament, just at the eve of Brexit. There are entrenched interests. There are people already in power that are very unsavory but can be useful for you. And as a consequence, if you want to actually rise up far enough in the rank of politics, you have to compromise with these unsavory people. The reason for why there's no honest politicians is because for you to get to the higher rungs of power, you have to learn to build alliances with these people who have no qualms in being dishonorable and wretched. So by the time you actually get to make a difference, by the time you actually have any power or influence, you've sold yourself. You've prostituted yourself in order to get more power. Even if you have grand ambitions of making a difference, by that point, it's too late. So that is why there aren't any honest politicians. So that's the thing. When you look at Parliament, when you look at the Brexit debates, you have to see it in that lens. You have to see that the reason for why they seem to completely ignore what the average voter wants is because at the end of the day, they're bought and paid for already. By the point that they can participate in that building, it's already way too late. Regardless of whether you happen to be on the left, the right, whether you're a Brexiter, whether you're a Remainer, doesn't matter. Your side has been corrupted by interests, and your politicians are not actually arguing for you. They're arguing for whatever they think happens to get them the most votes. So what is an honest person to do? When you read on the life of Cicero, when you read his adventures, it feels very human. It feels different somehow, because this book is written from the perspective of Cicero's slave called Cicero, and it highlights Cicero's personal life. And you kind of see that this is a man who had great ideas, great ambitions to bring the Roman Republic back to what it used to be. But at the end of the day, he had to contend with evil people. Catalina was a skeevy man. He came from a very powerful family. It's Cicero. At some points needed his help, needed to rise up the ranks, and consequently, he was willing to prostitute himself for what he deemed to be the benefit of the common good. And that's the thing, he had to do evil deeds. And when you just see the footage of people screaming at each other about Brexit or about any matter of political issues, you forget that there is a person behind. You forget that there is an actual human being spouting these beliefs. So I think that particular book is a breath of fresh air, because at least it allows you to peer into how it is to have to engage into that maelstrom of power. And that is something that I quite appreciated. That's something that I very much enjoyed. Either case, a democracy only exists in the world of ideas and fantasies. And I sincerely wished that it wasn't so, which is why I find ideas like fluid democracy quite intriguing. I won't go into details at the moment, but I'll link a video below by TheBurgerKrieg, which explains the concept. But back to the story of Cicero. I fear that there is an era of violent upheaval before us, almost irrespective of the country that you're in. I think it is wise to go back to the stories of the ancients, to go back to where the lessons have already been learned, where people already made their mistakes, and at least that way we can learn from them rather than completely ignoring them. People who want to destroy the past, they fail to learn the lessons of history. And as Cicero himself said, he who doesn't know the past is but a child. Ignorance is not the solution. Being aware of the failures and successes of the past is the way forward. As through that, through a careful understanding of events, we can more easily understand everyday lives. Now the case. I'll see you next week.